right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is where we talk sports with you 7 nights a week, right here on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. You should know the drill by now. Call 412-575-2600 or hit us up on Twitter at KDPump at the Pony Express. Pirates get something rare tonight. As I alluded to earlier, Pony, complete game by a pitcher in an under 2-hour performance. Pitch clock is there, but still it's rare to get under 2 hours. And in a minute 55, or an hour and 55 minutes tonight, Mitch Keller made quick work of a really bad team. Now this is back-to-back bad teams. Colorado was 8-26 when they left town. This team came in 12-22. Now the big story that we've been talking about for a few weeks now is Paul Skenes. He made another start yesterday. It wasn't as good as his previous ones. However, over the total body of work, 0.99 ERA. You can't get much better than that. I still think he's coming up here this weekend. I still think he'll start Saturday. Derek Shelton was asked about it today. Jeff Hathorn, as I said, was there, and he pretty much said, well, he's scheduled to start in Indy. And to me, that's all semantics. He's scheduled to start, yes, right now. I think that will change. Do you?
I'm not sure. It just made me think, Bob, they might force him to make at least one more. Would be more than that, because I don't think they'll make him or ask him to make his major league debut away from Pittsburgh or PNC Park.
But again, to me, the word there was scheduled. When he said scheduled, that raised some eyebrows with me. So we'll see. Again, I don't know how much more he needs to do. I know Bailey Falter is scheduled to pitch in that day. Jared Jones would have pitched earlier, but there's a day off on Thursday, so he'll pitch Friday, and you don't want to mess out his momentum that he has going on. But I think it would be fun to see him up here, and we'll see. Maybe we'll hear something tomorrow or the next day. In the meantime, I don't know if you saw a pretty good basketball game tonight. T.J. McConnell had the most points in the first half for the Pacers, who led at halftime, but the Knicks came back and won behind Jalen Brunson. And those Villanova three players, boy, they're really good together. I didn't expect Tom Thibodeau to get this much out of the Knicks team, but they did, and they're rolling along against a pretty good Indiana team.
Yeah, they won playing the Pacers style. Indiana wants to play up and down and score a lot of points, and that's how this game went. So I thought the way the game was played favored the Pacers team and T.J. McConnell's team. I didn't like the way the game ended. I thought that was a real ticky-tack foul to call on the last possession. Yeah, look, I think by the letter of the law you could make the argument, but I come from the Gene Steratore school of officiating. Let the fouls, especially in those moments, be big, obvious ones. And when it's really close, 50-50, I don't think you make that call. So I didn't think the screen was such an impediment or killer. I thought it was a great acting job. Put the guy
it was
on Broadway.
Embellishment. It was a LeBron James flop. It was a DiVincenzo going to school, and give him credit. He drew it. He got it done, but I'm sorry, but that was not a moving screen in any way. I thought it was something that should have been overlooked. Anyway, we're going to take your calls here. So we have a lot of people want to talk about Paul Skenes, as you can imagine, Pony. We'll do it when we come back. It's 412-575-2600. Pony, are we on 93.7 tonight, or is Pirate postgame still going on? Do you know?
Great question, Bob. I can run down the hall and ask.
All right. Maybe we're on the radio, but we are on TV, KDKA Plus. Call us with your opinions on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, here we go with our GMCCR tweet of the night. This comes from MLB, and they're talking about Mitch Keller. As we said, there's the line on him. 9 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And boy, Anaheim, Pony, is just one of those teams year after year. And I know they've got injuries, but they have. I looked at that lineup when I went over there tonight, and it's like, okay, they have a couple of young players who I'm aware of as far as their system. But other than that, it's a bad team. There are a lot of bad teams in baseball right now.
Yeah, one of them that I think is a scary one, though, is the Cubs. That 30-year-old pitcher they picked up from Japan is ahead of Jared Jones as far as the Rookie of the Year odds are right now. They got Bellinger back, although his health is a little bit of a question mark for them. They've got maybe not any huge bats in their lineup, but a lot of good ones. Depth in their pitching staff. Bullpen is solid. Great manager in Craig Counsell. I feel like that team can win close to 90 games. And I wasn't sure of that before the season started. So Cardinals look weaker than I thought. Reds just got swept. They'll probably be a 500 team. I think it's Cubs and Brewers in the NL Central, Bob, and the winner's going to win around 88, 89 games would be my prediction right now, a quarter of the way through the season or close to it.
But the Pirates have a situation now where they can take advantage of this team and get to the weekend, and they haven't played a lot of Central Division teams yet, so we'll see how it goes. A lot of people want to talk, so let's get to it, Pony. And by the way, Charles Tamarillo on Twitter says, yeah, you guys are on. Fastest game of the year. Post game is over. We're on. So we're on. Good. We're on the radio and the television. So here we go, beginning with Ray in Whitehall. Ray, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Just a few points. First of all, I wanted to know when Bay was coming back. And then, as far as Gonzalez is concerned, is the reason that they haven't called him up yet is because he had problems hitting the curve and recognizing the curve when he was up here last year.
He must be recognizing something. Ray is our number one caller, Cochrane caller of the night, and that would be he's hitting the ball well. I don't know what the difference is there. I just think you get to a point where you're struggling offensively. You got to make some changes, and they haven't, done it yet. I don't know if they will do it. If this, they got 4 runs in 1 inning, but other than that, there wasn't much tonight, Pony. So I think Gonzalez deserves another look at some point.
It feels like they view AAA production as meaningless or unimportant or not a good barometer of how a guy will fare once they get to the major leagues, because you have 2 guys hitting 400, Lamb over 400, Bay right at 400, and Nick Gonzalez is hitting extra base hits like crazy. Another one early in yesterday's game to stake Skenes to a lead. And given the Pirates' really powerless offense, they've kept those guys down in the minor leagues. I would think, especially given what they've invested in Gonzalez, that they would want to see him, because he is Ben Cherington's first-round pick.
Yeah.
So that decision I'm puzzled by. I've not heard the curveball thing as a reason why they're forcing him to toil in the minor leagues right now.
I've been conditioned to think, Andrew, that everybody who calls with a little alliteration to their name is Joe Starkey. We now have John in Johnstown. Now, this won't qualify as an interruption to my show, but since we're on the fan, it may qualify, and this may be a circumvention by Joe Starkey. John in Johnstown, is this really you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey, you guys run this town. You do a great job. This kid, Skenes, 22 years old, throwing 103 miles per hour. Enough boxes checked. Get him to the major leagues. You got 2.5 months until the Steelers take over. Let's see this kid, what he can do.
I'm with you, Andrew. I'm with him.
Well, so am I. Now, I had a feeling this might happen if ultimately they hold him back and force him to make another start because of how yesterday went for Skenes. The velocity was not the same. His fastball was at 97. Indians announcers kept talking about that. He couldn't get it over for a strike. At one point, he stopped throwing the pitch altogether early in the game. He started relying on a pitch he's calling a splinker, which is half splitter, half sinker, Bob, and it still comes in the mid-90s. So, hey, I mean, you're going to have to make those adjustments at the major league level when you don't have your best stuff. How do you still get hitters out? That adversity is part of being a great professional pitcher. My big gripe is, why did it take until now for him to pitch on regular rest? This is something that they should have had him do earlier this year. That way they're not experimenting and waiting for how his body and how he's going to react to things now into May for the first time. I would have had him doing that really for most of the month of April, Bob, moving my rotation around to make Skenes feel like he's more on a major league pitching schedule. Let
me ask you this before we get our next caller. When he comes up here, how restrictive will they be? We saw, I think, his best, 75, I think, is his most pitches he's thrown. It did not come in this last outing, but what would be a pitch count that you would be comfortable with, or do you think they would be comfortable with?
So those are two completely different numbers. My number is much higher than theirs, closer to 100, if not more. And I think theirs is more like 80. He was pulled at 66 pitches in yesterday's game. They didn't let him pitch out of the 5th inning. They didn't let him qualify for a win down there yesterday. First time on regular rest. So I think they're going to be way more restrictive on him. I was stunned. And hey, these guys got a lot going on, but I could not believe, Bob, that Derek Shelton and Ben Cherington both said, we don't think he's ever pitched on 4 days rest in his life. He did it in the College World Series, and it was a huge story that they were bringing him back on short rest. And I was just shocked that neither guy either remembered that or didn't know that that wasn't part of the story last year at LSU, that they were riding that big horse. They were taking that whip like in the Kentucky Derby with Mystic Dan and getting him over that finish line to win a championship.
Well, the thing is they have a pretty big bullpen right now. Even if you bring him up and he gets to 70 pitches or whatever,
you got 6
fine.
starters.
I'd rather have him here doing that.
You got 6 quality starters.
Than down there. Yeah,
I agree.
I don't understand why it has to be.
Who do you kick out of the rotation?
Bailey Falter. It's no fault of his own, but I think that's the obvious pick at this point. I like Priester. I want to see Priester continue to do. He's more of a part of the future than Falter is, in my view. So he's going to go in this series also. We'll see what he does. And if he does well, then it's Falter who comes out. Let's go back to the lines. We have Teddy in Smithfield. Teddy, go ahead.
Hey, Bob. Hi, how are you doing? First-time caller.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ted.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, you guys got a great show. Hey, I was wondering, in baseball, who determines whether a batted ball is a hit or an error?
Official scorer. There's one in every game.
They just have one person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes they get overruled. Sometimes players get together, or a manager after a game and says, hey, you got to change that. We've seen that before. One more quick call. Let's go to Chuck in Uniontown. Chuck, I know you're an avid Pirate fan. I'd be interested to hear your take on Skenes.
Yeah, Skenes, fellas, I don't mean to throw cold water on things, but don't be surprised if Skenes is not an immediate success the first time he goes out of, maybe even the losing pitcher, because don't forget that there is no wider gap than between AAA and the major leagues. I'm just like you. I want to see it too, and I over the long haul, I don't think there's any question that he's going to be a success. But I'm just saying that if he's not the success we like to see the first time out, don't get alarmed.
Well, I don't think I would be. I'm okay with anything that happens, Pony.
Hey, Bob, let me ask you a question going back to the rotation thing, and I know you need a lot of arms. If a team called with good depth at first base and said, we'll trade you a solid first baseman for Martin Perez, would you make that trade right now?
Yes.
If it was a guy in his 20s with multiple years on his deal?
Yes, I would.
So would I. And I don't think they're looking for deals like that, but I would.
I think Martin
given Perez is only on a 1-year deal.
Right, and he would be flipped anyway at the deadline if he was doing well. So if it happened now, yeah, they need help at first base. I don't think there's any question. They don't have much offense in their system at all. So you get it where you can get it. It's interesting. We saw a Rise traded. That's an interesting situation because he's a guy who can get on base and do things that they don't have right now. The price tag's $10 million, and he's going to be eligible.
Would you trade Martin Perez for Josh Bell?
Yes, I would. Would you?
Yes.
I would.
We should send this to Miami or the Pirates front office and see if we can get that deal done, Bob, because I think it might help both
teams. They're selling off players. Why not? And Josh Bell, I don't know what his numbers were last year, but they had to have been better than anything the Pirates put out there at first base. And they even had a decent guy last year. And it's just every year somebody new over there. They need a little consistency as well. We got to take a break, Andrew. We'll do it. Come back with more. This is the Ireland Contracting Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. We roll along right after this. Ken Rice is standing by with a preview of the news tonight, coming at you at 11 o'clock on KDKA. Ken?
Hey, Bob, a local school district and its community coming together in support of a high school lacrosse player with a devastating diagnosis. Plus, another school district approves furloughing some teachers, and why a local bar was hit with a consumer alert, all coming up on KDK News at 11, Bob.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Pony, it looks like Boston's going to take game 1 at Florida tonight, which is a little surprising considering they just came off a grueling 7-gamer against Toronto. So that's interesting to me because I expect Florida to win that. New York Rangers are up in Carolina. The Western Conference semis are very interesting to me. Do you think Edmonton, it's finally their turn to win something with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and company?
Not necessarily. They live on the power play, and their goaltender, I still think Skenes is very suspect. And so there's a chance Demko comes back for Vancouver later in the series. And I give Jim Rutherford so much credit for the way they in one offseason overhauled their defense. That team is committed to playing defense, especially their big physical blue liners after Hughes. And I think they can slow down Edmonton's offense just enough to make this a competitive series.
You know, it's interesting that Vancouver swept them during the regular season, won all 4 games, and
That's
I know
right.
McDavid was in a couple of
McDavid
those.
did not play the last one.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
But
so
still,
you do your homework, Bob. You always do.
Yeah, and I'm
it.
intrigued by if they have to go with that goaltender from Latvia. I'm not sure what he showed himself to be very capable, and he's been on a big national stage when it comes to winning for his country.
That's
but
right.
I don't know if he
That's
can
exactly
do it in this.
Right. And Swayman and Allmark reminds me of Murray Fleury, Bob. It's Murray Fleury all over again in Beantown.
Although Swayman's been 6 in a row now. Anyway, Pony, thanks as always. We appreciate it. Out of time. We'll see you again later this week. In the meantime, thank you for joining us back here tomorrow night at 10:35. We will see you then. Thanks for watching the Ireland Contract.